He's there at the top of the hill, between the two bridges, silhouetted against the limpid sky.
You're making this up.
He could have a point, but the fact is the dog magically appeared.
How would you kind of describe your collaboration, why it works?
You know, we didn't go to film school. I was an artist. I was doing an MFA at RISD, and Scott was going to be an academic, and he was in a PhD program in the rhetoric department doing Japanese film studies at Berkeley. Wow. So we came at this sort of sideways, and we were completely ignorant of anything to do with the film business or making movies.
Or any business whatsoever.
We developed our own way of doing things. There was no one there to say, maybe you should direct or you should produce, and that's why we share the credit and have her for our entire careers.
How do you go about kind of selecting projects to work on these days?
I mean, it varies. We do like book adaptations. That's how this one started, because I read the first review of The Friend, Sigrid Nunez's beautiful book, Dwight Garner's review in the New York Times. I could sort of see from the book review initially, oh, there's a spine story there that might be really interesting. We got the book and read it and really fell in love with it, and it kind of went from there.
How do you then approach the author? Do you have not that it's a secret sauce to reveal to everyone, but I'm curious about kind of collaborating or involving them.
So Sigrid was really lovely about this. We met her for coffee first, and then we had a dinner or two as well and got to know her. But she, from the get-go, was very much like, I'm a novelist, I'm not a screenwriter, so, I'm not going to be involved, I'm not going to intervene, you guys go ahead. There comes a point when we did say, well, we should really send this now finished screenplay to Sigrid. But she was lovely about it, and she's been really lovely about the film. That's all we can ask for.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the changes you made, for adaptation purposes?
There's a lot of digressions in the book in regard to, or in relation to, the literary world, suicide, other small storylines that are in the book that aren't in the movie. And the character of Val in the movie, played by Sarah Pidgeon, that was an invention of ours. That's not really in the book. The idea that Iris is working on Walter's correspondence is something that we invented that isn't in the book. And those two things together, we thought, helped triangulate Iris's relationship and the audience's relationship to Walter.
Nice.
The book is very interior. It's kind of the almost stream of consciousness kind of conversation that the narrator is having with her, dead mentor, that kind of shifts to a conversation she's having with the dog by the end of the book.
The central story of a grieving woman having a dog bequeathed to her that she realizes is grieving the loss of his master as much as she's grieving the loss of her friend. That's really that is the central spine of the book. And the narration in the movie came out of that interior voice that Scott was talking about, because it's so specific and it's so Sigrid. I mean, if you read other of her books, you hear it in pretty much all of her work, and it's funny and it's quirky. We sort of fell in love with it, and that's where the idea for the voiceover came from, because we never really had a voiceover of any note in a movie before. And it's an unusual voiceover, as Scott said. She's not really, it's not expository. She's talking to Walter, and then it morphs into her talking to the dog.
Yeah, I would love to talk about your wonderful cast, because being the wonderful Great Dane that I hope you all fell in love with like I did is obviously such an incredible piece. I mean, I'm so shocked to learn that he was very young, right? Can you talk a little bit? Let's start with Bing, and then we'll get to Naomi and Bill, if that's okay.
Well, that's how we cast the film, actually. We started with Bing.
Did you really?
Yeah, we met Bing in 2020. After meeting 35 dogs, we finally met him. What we were looking for that dog, I think, was a movie dog that you wanted to look at. A creature, like any actor, has a kind of interior life that you're curious about when you're looking into his eyes. And he just had that. He had a kind of charisma that no other dog we met had. And he also had a wonderful owner. He was very well trained. He seemed to be very smart. So after meeting him, we kind of stopped looking and just kind of carried on.
We knew it was going to be a challenge, but the idea of trying to portray an actual character arc for a dog seemed really exciting to us. And as Scott said, finding a dog that you believed, you were somehow going into his interior life. I mean, Naomi talks about him being one of her best scene partners that she's ever had, because all she really means is that he really was there and present with her, like really like another actor.
Yeah. How did you handle the stuff in the New York streets with Because I just worry about people mobbing and wanting to touch and interact with this wonderful animal.
And we always said he's an astounding thing to see walking down the street, so we never really worried if like he turned heads in a crowd shot or something. It just seemed like, well, yeah, he would. And I do think he attracted more attention than Naomi Watts walking down 6th Avenue. So like whenever somebody would look, they would just be like, yeah, well, that's the story. So.
Yeah. Miss Naomi Watts is wonderful here. I mean, she's wonderful in most things.
We love her.
Was she then next after Bing? Is that how you found her?
She was next, yeah.
Yes.
And, like with Bing, I mean, one of Naomi's great gifts is that ability to convey an interior life and to convey vulnerability that way. Our other producing partner, Liza Chasen, is good friends with Naomi, so we had a personal introduction to her as well as her representatives. And she responded to the script very quickly, and we began to talk to her. And in one of the first conversations, she asked us who we were thinking about to play Walter. Mm-hmm. And our first idea had always been Bill Murray. We knew that they had worked together and just started talking about Bill. And she was, yes, that's such a great idea. Oh, I can't even now think about anybody else. But then she said, oh, wait a minute, are you expecting me to contact Bill?
Famously unreachable Bill Murray. Bless him.
But and as soon as we hung up, she did. That's exactly what she did. She reached out to Bill, so that made that so much easier as well.
Yeah. How quickly then did everything come together? Because I think it was a relatively quick shoot, in my estimation. I don't know if it's quick for you guys, right?
We shot for 35 days, so that was for especially with a dog.
Yeah.
But we only finished the movie in the beginning of April of last year, and then it premiered at the Telluride Film Festival at the end of August. So post-production was a little bit fast that way.
Is there one sequence or one day of filming that's most magical in your memory?
The first night that she has the dog, he gets off the bed and he starts prowling around her and then gets on top of her. That was on the next to last day, and we were running out of time, and there was a lot more to do, just like happens so often on smaller movies. There was almost a collective panic amongst the crew whether we had enough time to actually do this. We wound up shooting that scene in about 45 minutes, the entire thing. It was something that we were thinking was going to take at least a couple of hours. It just went off without a hitch in a way that I think just surprised us. And sometimes when you're shooting something, your expectation about the way it's going to go logistically just gets upended, sometimes for the worse. But in this case, it was for the better. So we were watching the images on the monitor as it was happening and just really kind of thrilled about it and thrilled about the pace of what was happening.
Just the interaction between the dog and Naomi, you could never know what you're going to get exactly. She played it so nicely, just kind of staying in character through all of the kind of unexpected sniffs and bumps.
She and Bing really developed a beautiful relationship, but she's a real dog person, and she was always so game to sort of play with that. That was really great.
The film is opening now and more people are getting to see it. What have you enjoyed most about sharing it with audiences and the reactions you're receiving?
This book and the story touched us, really, really touched us deeply. And so to see audiences react to it emotionally, that's really been just a pleasure. I mean, and more so, I think, maybe than we even imagined. And it's a movie that is about things that matter to almost everybody. And so when people react to it emotionally and connect to it, that's really feels good.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, unusually with this movie, like we've been able to bring everyone back together to do the kind of promotion, and Bill and Naomi and Bing kind of all coming out, kind of unexpected. And then I think our entire cast is a New York cast, except for Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, Bing.
Yeah.
So it's been nice to kind of bring that family back together as we're promoting the film, and that's felt really, especially kind of warm and lovely this time for some reason.
Yeah. You got, again, great taste in coming out here to see this wonderful duo.
Thank you for
Thank you very much.
sharing some of your day with us.